Okay, today we planted way too many dragon fruit, and so we're going to repurpose this area for annuals. And I'm first going to show you how to take cuttings of dragon fruit, and then we'll be clearing the bed. I've got gloves with leather on both sides because I don't want to get stuck by the spikes, and I'm using secateurs to carefully snip off the dragon fruit so that we have a little section here from the node, and whoever wants to plant a dragon fruit can plant that about 15 centimetres into the ground with this end down, and it will grow. Okay, so when we were clearing this bed and removing the dragon fruits, we found something quite interesting. So about a year ago when we planted these, this is what we did. We took a cutting and we planted it about that deep into the soil. Now that we've dug these ones up, we can see what happened. And basically what happened was that they put out roots, and then the flesh rotted away, leaving the core. Same on this one. So that's what happens to dragon fruits when you plant a cutting. That's the bed all clear and ready for digging.
Hi. The two implements you'll use most when digging a garden is your trusty rake, which we'll use much later when we finish digging it, and your spade. You need a spade which has a curved front, that's so that it goes in easier. You can get spades that are flat along the edge, and they are very difficult to get in. I also recommend a long-handled spade. You can get short-handled spades with a little handle at the top, and they're not as good as these. These you can get a lot of leverage. You can go down and pull, down and pull, down and pull. And so you can literally get that deep. Okay. This is a cultivator. It's an electric cultivator, which is great for the environment and no smoke and fumes for you. Once you're finished with all the hard work of the spade, or getting a bit old, you want to turn to a cultivator. The cultivator has tines which turn round and round and dig up the ground. Sometimes the ground can be too hard, and you'll need to dig it with a spade first and then break it into smaller pieces with your cultivator. This is a nice little cultivator. I bought it on eBay. It runs with a power line, so you have to be able to hook it up to power. You can also buy battery powered ones from Bunnings. I'm not sure the battery powered ones would be strong enough to do the job, but certainly this one is more than adequate for the job. Can you over cultivate a piece of land? Yes, you can. At one stage I was working for some people who hadn't a clue what they were doing, and they had a cultivator on the back of the tractor, and they cultivated the ground till it was the consistency of talcum powder. When you stepped in it, you sank about that much. That land never grew anything, but the stuff I dug up right next to it with a spade was growing beautiful crops before the other crops even got above a foot. Thank you.
So we've cleared the bed and we're ready to put our inputs in. So what will we put in? Some sand, some river sand to improve the drainage of the soil.
That's because our soil is very heavy clay, and we need a bit of sand in it. Some people reckon that adding sand makes concrete, but I've only found that adding cement makes concrete. We've found that adding sand in some quantities is actually beneficial and makes the soil a lot less heavy.
Okay, we're also going to add some hardwood fines, and they're a great source of slow breaking down nutrients, and they're specifically really good for actually feeding the fungi in the soil, and that makes your soil healthier overall.
Is it called mycorrhiza?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, fungi's good enough. It's all part of the same family. And here's our compost. Okay, so this is compost. We're really lucky in Port Macquarie because they do a green bin collection and make this lovely compost. And so this is what we'll be putting into the bed today.
So what did we do when we lived on 40 acres?
Well, when we lived on 40 acres, we had horses, and they are so wonderful for producing manure that really enriches the garden.
Yes, we had two 15-acre paddocks that the horses used, and every couple of days we'd collect manure from the paddocks, and then we'd put them into some giant makeshift bins and turn it over, and within a couple of weeks we'd have fantastic manure.
Yeah, and that grew wonderful crops in the garden.
Yep, tallest corn you ever seen, isn't it?
It was brilliant. So here's the digger in action. Notice that we've got some boards up at the side so that the dirt and everything doesn't end up on the paths there, and it's doing a great job there. When you're using the cultivator, you really need to use boards to stand on like that, otherwise you'll be leaving huge footprints in your dirt and compressing it. The boards spread the weight and make sure that you aren't compressing the dirt, and that'll give you a better result because plants don't like growing in compressed earth. Yesterday, we used the cultivator to dig some sand into our heavy clay soil. So let's take a closer look now at what that achieved. You can see that there's still some quite big lumps of clay and they're sticky. But there's also finer bits, and I can just see little flecks of sand in that and some heavier, slightly bigger pebbles there occasionally of the sand. So what that's done, the little bit of sand that we've dug into that, is just helped open the soil up a bit more and make it more friable. Digging helps to do that as well, because you don't want a hard, compressed soil. Plants don't like to grow in that. They find it hard to get their roots in. You can also see that there's still some wood chips here from when we were using this as a dragon fruit bed, and that's fine because they'll provide nutrients over a long period of time if they're broken down in the soil by the fungi and microorganisms.
What are we going to do next?
Next we're going to actually use the cultivator, because there's still quite big lumps and plenty of room to cultivate this one more time. We're not going to damage the soil by doing that, so we're going to actually add some more things, which we talked about yesterday as well, and that's going to be the hardwood fines and the compost, and we're also going to put in some pelleted chook manure for extra nutrients.
We've put the fines and the chook pellets down. I'm just spreading them out now, and we'll be just back with putting the compost on next.
So we've now put the compost on the top, and we've put 6 barrowfuls of compost on this bed, which is about 6 metres long and 1.5 metres wide, plus this little dog leg bit down the end here. Now, we made sure that when we were bringing the compost up, that we kept to the path, because the very last thing you want to do is step on your bed, because that causes compression, and you don't want that because plants do not like to grow in compressed soil.
What about Gympie?
Oh, right, yeah, okay. A great example is when we were in Gympie, we had a property that had been used as a dairy farm before, and there was a section where they'd had a loading ramp for cattle. And we actually dug up that area and then planted crops in it, and what we found was that after the crops grew, you could actually see where the trucks used to come in. You could see the track lines where the trucks used to come in, because that soil had been so deeply compressed. Even though we actually ripped it and dug it, you could still see where those heavy vehicles had been. So compression is the worst enemy for growing crops.
Yep, we ripped it with a great big tractor.
And so we've just finished cultivating this, and we've dug the mulch in, and we can see that soil is now much more friable. There's a lot more organic matter. You can still see the hardwood fines and some of the rooster booster pellets if you look hard enough. But basically that's going to be really easy for the plants to get their roots down into. And that's what you want, because you want to be able to, when you plant your little seedlings into this soil now, you want the roots to get down quickly and established so that the plants can get themselves growing really quickly, because strong plants growing quickly means more produce for you and more to eat.
And we've just finished raking it. Well, it's just finished being raking, and the reason we rake it level is because it's a lot easier to plant things, and because it means there's not little valleys which might pool water. You want your whole garden bed to get consistent water. You see in modern farms, most modern farms now laser level their entire paddocks so that there's no pooling. So it's now on to mulching.
Well, here it is, finished. Mulched up with a light mulch of sugarcane mulch, just to be a little bit of a reflective surface, and we'll plant through that. Time for a cup of tea, what do you reckon?